So I'm just saying, man, we can't keep doing this. I mean, I don't like you, you don't like me. How can we do this show anymore?
Yeah, and you killed my mom, so it's just not the same.
Well, she was dead before I found her. Anyways, oh shit, we're live.
Oh God, you warn a brother next time.
Welcome everyone to the 10K Run podcast. My name is Amos Joseph, joined by my co-host Brooke Potter. How's it going, Brooke?
Oh my God, Amos. Oh my God, this 2 podcast shit a day. I can't keep up with this. I am barely clinging to sanity and life at this point.
Dude, there's gonna be a whole trend of us like just saying, "Oh, this 2 podcast shit, man. This 2 podcast shit, man."
Yeah,
and then people are
yeah.
gonna be like, "What is this 2 podcast thing they're talking about? Why don't I listen to this one podcast?"
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's good promo for the rest of the team. So,
yeah. So to the viewers, of course, and listeners on podcasts, the podcast we're talking about, of course, is Religion Zero. It is a rotating show that we do between four of us. So it's my
sometimes
channel.
with the guest, yeah.
Yep, sometimes with the guest. So Brooke's channel, my channel, our friend Conk's channel, and then now recently Bobby Leon's channel. We basically go around, rotate, doing different episodes. We just did our 8th episode with a special guest, Ryan Stone. We talk about different issues, like anything. It kind of goes anywhere in between, like being more religion or more red pill, but it kind of goes in between that as a spectrum, like how much we talk about one or the other, or 2 of them together. So
yeah,
go check that out. Of course, you subscribe to pretty much all those 4 channels I mentioned. You're going to catch on to it. We usually, one of us tweets about it to advertise it.
There is a playlist, I think, in this channel and on my channel. So if you want to, yeah. So yeah, Brooke, subscribe here.
Brooke does a couple of special, appendix videos, like in addition to the content we did. But yeah. So here we are. Of course, I'm just gonna get this over with.
Get the house cleaning out of the way.
Get the house cleaning out of the way. If you would like to support the show in one of 2 ways, technically 3 ways. You could subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, like, comment on the video, share with a friend if you do, if you enjoy the show. But of course, one of the better ways that you could support the show is one of 2. Either go to tacticalsoap.com, order anything that they have there, anything from like the beard oil to the soaps to other products they have there. You use the coupon code 10KRUM. That's 10KRUM. You get 10% off, and then a little bit of money goes to us as a commission. Or you can go to subscribestar.com /shitlord-preachers. That's basically for the 10K Run podcast. You have anything between a $1, $5, $10, and $25 a month pledge you could do. The $5 pledge gets you access to our Raw Take series that we do. It's kind of a sporadic thing we do where we'll do anything from half an hour to an hour of just extra footage we'll do talking about in a more candid manner. $10.25 gets you sort of like you get credit for basically being a larger supporter of the show. Put your name in the description. We shout out to you. And of course, which leads us to Edmundo, which is our $25 a month subscriber. He gets access to everything, which as we go forward and we get more and more people subscribing to the show, we're going to offer more and more rewards at each tier as we go forward. $5 tier I would say is by far the most popular one right now, since you get that's when you start getting some extra stuff. But yeah, one of those, Tactile Soap or Subscribe Star. And that's what we got for that. So today's topic,
the balls soup that you can buy. What is it? What is the flavors of the soap?
Bond, Maverick, and Durden.
Durden, right? Okay.
There's the first line of Bond, Maverick, and Durden, and then there's Bond, Maverick, and Durden 2.
Right. Okay.
I got this 2, and I got them set up in a way where I have one for the shower, one for washing my hands, one in reserve right now. So,
and your balls like it? It's like balls friendly.
Yeah, it's friendly to the balls, friendly to the skin, and very friendly to the ladies too.
Would my beardsticles like it?
Your beardsticles?
Yeah, my beardstickle.
I don't know, man. I mean, you'd have to try it. I mean, you got the halftime razor. Why aren't you ordering any tactical soap with that too?
it's so expensive for the UK because it would basically be like 3 times the price to ship it here with all the duty and the taxes and stuff like that.
So what you're saying is I need to smuggle it over there for you.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna have like half a suitcase full of soap.
Yeah. Exactly. That just put it as hand luggage. You could just bring me a whole bunch. I'll pay you when you get here.
I mean, it's not liquid. You know, they're gonna be like, "What's with all these bricks in your bag?" Nothing, officer.
Yeah, good on you, man. Good on you. I'd appreciate that because I did look to order the 3-pack and I think it was like 30 US. And when it was all said and done, it cost me close to 75 to ship it out here. So
you see, yeah, Tom in the chat gets it. You know, chesticles, testicles, spectacles.
Yeah, I'm doing beardsticles because I have a beard and it's like it hangs. So I don't have much chesticles. That's for chicks.
No, but yeah, spectacles too.
Yeah.
Skullsticles.
Oh yeah, that's it is. We'll have to work on that one.
Oh, the stickles. But yeah. So last week we did one. It was that we called it the end of May episode, and this we're just saying 2020 is just beginning because it's like 1 month after another. Man, there's always these new things.
Well, there's always 1 month after another. What you meant to say was there's one thing after another.
One thing after another every month.
Right. Yes.
Right.
The months are following consecutively as they always have.
See, that would be the real test of how crazy 2020 would get, is if we like went backwards a month or we skipped a month.
That's like a friend of mine saw me in a picture yesterday and I was wearing a jacket because it's pretty cold out here. Our friend Sulan from episode 69. And she's like, that's a pretty thick jacket for spring. And I said, out here in the Abbey, we've skipped spring entirely. We've just entered October. We're in autumn right now. I don't remember ordering October. When did this arrive? And that's what's going on out here right now.
Minnesota gets a couple of moments like that. One moment it's storming outside, the next moment it's sunny, and then sometimes randomly in the middle of the, like, what is it right now? It's June.
Yes, it is June.
Yeah,
June
it
7th.
could. There is, interesting enough, a chance that it could snow. Not like meteorologically, like if I looked on the thing, they would say there's a chance. But just for how unpredictable Minnesota can be at times, there is always that chance of snow at different times of the year. We've gotten snow as late as, in my lifetime that I remember, as late as the second week of May.
Right. Wow. Yeah. You said July was the only month in record that never got snow in Minnesota.
Yeah, and that's talking like any territory within the border, the state border. So that could be somewhere that's way up north. We have a couple of regions up in northern Minnesota that will get snow at random times of the year too. So that includes that. But that, I mean, a couple 100 miles sometimes doesn't make much of a difference if the conditions are just right.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
But yeah, so with all the stuff that happens, with every month that has come by in 2020, let's see. What did we have in January? World War II or World War III?
World War III, right, between the U.S. and China. February was what? Was UFOs?
UFOs was actually during coronavirus, which is funny.
And because we kind of entered the coronavirus a little ahead of you guys, not by much, but by a couple weeks. I think that really kicked off in March. Anyway, so we had UFOs somewhere in that time frame. Then we had the coronavirus, the Kung flu. Then we had YouTube censorship. Then we had, what did we have after that?
Oh, here we go. So I actually found this. Coronavirus pandemic, Australian bushfire.
Oh, the bushfires. I forgot about the bushfires.
The death of Kobe Bryant.
Death of Kobe Bryant, yes.
Let's see. Riots in Delhi, devastating floods in Indonesia, Ukrainian jetliner crashed in Iran. A volcanic eruption, earthquakes in Turkey and the Caribbean.
Right. Well, earthquakes are not a particularly odd thing.
But what's interesting about this month's earthquake, so what happened was, as we were coming into June, there were reports. Oh yeah, February was impeachment. Yeah,
that's right, Edmundo. Yeah.
And then March, April was like coronavirus. May was, mean, there was UFOs. Oh, murder hornets. There was
Murder hornets. Yeah, chainsaw bears. Yeah.
But and then the big one going into June that everyone was talking about was earthquakes around Yellowstone National Park.
Yes. And for those who don't know, Yellowstone is actually a giant volcano, right? It's like a super volcano.
It's called a caldera, which means like your typical volcano people think is like a mountain with like and the top blows off. A caldera is literally a hole in the crust or a weak spot in the crust.
Yeah.
Usually when you look at a caldera, you'll see it's just like a lake.
Right.
In the middle of a very slightly raised landmass, and there's just a lake in the middle or just like an indentation. And what happens is that just kind of falls through. You get a volcano. And I think, and then a lot of people are posting pictures. So like, I'm basically, so Minnesota there's 3 places. There's the kill zone, which is where everyone
close epicenter. Yeah.
When you're there, you're dead. There's the primary ash cloud radius, and then there's the secondary ash cloud, which is where I would be. I'm just on the edge of that. So if it happened, I'd have enough time to get out of here. Which is
where would you go? You got to go east, or I guess if you're on that side, you got to go east.
I'd have to go east. I couldn't.
Or south.
No, I'd go east. I'd just go right in.
Okay.
Because I'd go right into like
Maine.
I'd play it by ear. I'd at least like
Canada.
No, because that'd be north. I'd have to go north first. If I was going, I would.
Remember, Minnesota is more north than Toronto is, so Canada kind of dips down into the United States.
But I've seen, looking at the map, I would just go straight into Wisconsin, then Michigan, and then by the time I'm into Michigan, I'd kind of like check up on updates, see like where they're predicting everything will go.
Just go to Florida. Once you get out that far, go south. Get yourself a senorita.
I prefer being in the Midwest somewhat still. Just
Oh, your Spanish sucks. What's wrong with you?
My Spanish would probably be just fine. I could get it back. I used to be all right with Spanish, but no, I don't know. I just think like staying rural would be better than going to like a city or a very highly populated state. Sure. Unless there'd be like some good reason, like if I knew someone or there was like a group of people that were meeting somewhere. But I mean, anyone anyone in that kill zone or primary ash cloud, like you better be booking it to get out.
Yeah. You are fucked.
Because
when was the last time this thing erupted? Like what, 65,000 years or something?
Something like that. It's a while
it's
ago.
Like one every 75,000, and it's already been like 62,000.
I mean, there's that. There's because if Yellowstone went off, I think like most of the Earth would be shrouded. It's like a good couple years before the global temperatures return to normal. It wouldn't necessarily be deadly, but I mean, for most of the world, like air quality would definitely be lower.
Right.
I remember the movie 2012 definitely depicted that pretty well because that was one of the first volcanoes to go.
Right. Okay.
They showed that, and the ash cloud they showed went all the way to DC, which I thought made no sense. But
how exciting.
Yeah.
and so, are you prepared for said disaster? Like, do you have a bug out bag and cash, guns, hookers?
I've got
blow.
I know what stuff I would take with me.
Okay.
I'd primarily be focused on keeping like I mean, in terms of necessities, like my understanding is like if I really needed certain things, some things I could like, okay, I could get something on the way. Like, okay, if I get clothes, towels, toiletries, all my electronics.
Right.
That'd probably be it. Okay.
No cash? You don't have cash?
Well, I have money in the bank. I don't think I don't know if like something like that would shut down like banking systems where you can't get money out of an ATM.
Maybe not in
It'd be fun.
Minnesota, but it probably would affect the banking system in some capacity.
Oh, you think banks would hold on to the money?
It might be difficult to get the money.
I mean, that'd probably be one of the first things that once I'm just out of range to just stop somewhere and get something, and before the banks, like, because it should take like a day or two before the banks like go absolutely crazy.
Yeah, hopefully there's preventative measures. Hopefully they're prepared and that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's fun speculation. Are you going to get a gun?
Probably.
Tim Pool's just got a gun.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I mean, at that point, you never know, like how either guns will just be easy to get, hard to get. People probably wouldn't care if you had one or not. It just depends on where you're going, what kind of people you encounter. That's why it's like if I go to a city, the panic would be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So you want me to go to Florida? I don't want to go to Florida because,
well, I mean, if you go to the Panhandle, the north side of Florida, it's farmland. It's country. You don't have to go as far down as I think the cities really start at like Jacksonville and Orlando and stuff like that. So it's more south. But yeah, I get your point.
But anyways, so there's that going on.
So potentially the planetary zit is about to burst and split the United States in half.
One of the many zits, because that's not one of the big. I mean, it's the big one in this side of the world.
Yeah, I think it is the biggest in North America. Yeah, I think so.
Every continent has like a zit somewhere.
Yeah.
No matter how long the Earth has been around, it's still very much a adolescent child. Yeah, with zits.
Is it on TRT? is it the roid rage that's causing it to break out?
So that's going on, and then what else is going on? I think okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You remember I made the prediction last episode. You were like, "Hey, what do you predict is going to happen?" I said probably something with animals.
Yes.
There's rumors around that there are zoos that are letting out their animals right now.
Really?
Yeah. In some states, there's some rumors of like reports of animals breaking out of zoos.
Interesting. I mean, there is some big zoo news, which is Carol Baskin actually got control of the Tiger King zoo.
Yeah, because was it Mike Lowe? Whatever his name is. Bob
I can't
Lowe?
remember. Okay.
The guy. So if anyone who watched Tiger King remembers, oh my gosh, I'm just looking at the chat real quick here. Tom Bombadil in the chat saying, "Take an end of the world Disney World vacation."
Yeah, that's in Florida. You get discount prices, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be a 5-finger discount. Just walk right in. Everyone's leaving because I'm hanging out.
No queues for the rides.
No rides to begin with.
But hold your meeting to Tower of Terror.
Right. So, crap. What was I just saying? We were talking about Carol Baskin. Yeah. So, if anyone remembers Tiger King, there was obviously Joe Exotic, Carol Baskin, and then there was this guy, something Low. The poser guy that was, played it up like he had a lot of cash, but he really didn't. He was leasing cars. He was deep in debt. He was behind on payments and all this stuff. And he somehow fronted money to buy Joe Exotic's zoo. But now because he's screwed it up, I mean, the Tiger King show was in terms of production and release was relatively short period. So
yes,
towards the end of the show, the stuff is still happening right now. Mm-hmm, so then the resolution is now Carol Baskin owns Joe Exotic Zoo while Joe Exotic's in jail.
Yeah.
And the guy who bought it from him,
well, he didn't buy it. He convinced Joe to sign it over to him as a kind of security. And then he took over.
And then he took over, and then he put money into expanding it, making it more.
Right, and he
didn't
have the money.
Yeah.
So, I mean that's some big animal news for those who are into that sort of thing. I don't know if that's quite what you had in mind when we were talking about disasters, but some people might say this is a goddamn tragedy. That
I type in Carol Baskin. People also ask, what is the deal with Carol Baskin? What is your deal? Let's see. The Joe Exotic team manager. I'm trying to find.
Oh, my friend Danielle is in the chat. She's like, free all the kitties. And I'm like, yeah, it seems like that's happening anyway.
Jeff Lowe. That's it. So Jeff Lowe was
the guy.
Jeff Lowe was the guy with the, I mean, he was basically the old guy with the hat and the bandana and all this stuff.
And the prostitutes in the Ferrari that he was late on his payments. And
bringing cats into parties and stuff.
I mean, this is the crazy thing about the whole of 2020. Their Tiger King was probably the most normal thing that we've had to deal with for the year.
Yeah, Tiger King was one of the more normal things. I mean, and then there was the UFO. It was funny. We're during coronavirus, like coronavirus, Joe Exotic, all this other stuff is going around the world, and the Pentagon declassifies footage that like 99% of the way is proving that UFOs exist at least. I think someone was saying
they're not saying it's aliens, but they're saying they don't know what it is. Yeah,
yeah, it was an unidentified aircraft that they found in airspace that just made no sense what it was doing there or what it was. It's just, it is what it is. It's a UFO. It's an unidentified flying object. Yeah. But it just kind of like, it was just, in a way, it was like, a lot of people took it as the Pentagon just proved aliens are real, and it wasn't the word. We didn't care, and we still didn't care. Like,
nobody gave a shit. I mean, we're so trumped up on DMT and Joe Rogan podcasts and listening to all kind of harebrained theories. I think human consciousness, in a lot of ways, they kind of already suspect as much. In fact, there's a university study right now that is trying to analyze the entity, because they're all having these same kind of encounters. They're actually beginning to believe that these things actually exist. Mm-hmm. So they're like giving people questionnaires and other things to kind of ask these beings what they are. Scientific study, man. This is where we're going, man. We ready for make first contact,
2064.
What's 2064?
First contact.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well,
in Star Trek, right? Okay. Yeah. I was like, I thought there was another like an actual prediction.
Was it July or June? July 4th, 2064, I think.
Yeah.
First contact day. April 5th. That's right. April 5th. 2063. Yeah, shows what I know. But
again, my friend Daniel is saying that the UFOs are actually made in China. I'm like, Thunderfoot? You know the scientist Thunderfoot on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a debunking video of the footage put out by the Pentagon, and he says it's birds. So,
if you know anything about birds, is that they're not real.
Right, I know they're artificial.
They're government spy satellites that fly around. I mean, you've never, you only ever see. It's the whole thing.
Is this just like the best conspiracies of the decade kind of episode?
I mean, 2020 is one of those, is going to be that year that just all the conspiracies come out and
lizard people. I mean, hollow Earth.
I mean, it's not just like, oh, look at all these crazy things. It's like, okay, let's really consider if these things could be real. Like people that are kind of on the fringe that will at least have the conversation just for fun are starting to go, okay, wait, but what if there's just a little bit of credibility in it? Now I'm not going to go as far as like, some hollow earth or flat earth nonsense, but just sometimes, let's see, certain death. Oh yeah.
Edmundo highlight the comment.
Point. Yeah. So Edmundo brings up a good point here. Anyone else find it slightly strange that the same politicians and media that said groups of 10 people were certain death, but then in 24 hours telling people to go protest in groups of tens of thousands? Exactly. I thought that was really funny. Like, I think, wasn't there something? Oh, was it Corey that sent us this? It was something about like pretty much stay indoors, but if you're gonna go protest, that's fine.
Oh yeah, I think that was somebody's quote.
Yeah, the
about
media
protests, yeah.
is basically doing this little workaround, almost a reach around in some ways, to just say, all right, stay indoors, be safe, social distance, but if you really got to protest, social justice is more important.
Yeah.
It's like you can. I mean, because what was it? You want to go kill grandma?
What?
If you want to go out, if it's like
you already killed my mom.
No. It's if you want to go outside, you're going to kill grandma, right? That was the whole talk.
Right. That was yes.
So it's like, well, okay. So really think about it. So there's probably some sort of racial dynamic to it. It's like, well, if you go outside and you're going to get people sick, like you're obviously going to kill grandma. And grandma is most likely white. So they're kind of like, so they're thinking like in this racial hierarchy of, the whole thing is going to be pretty much, oh, well, now you're protesting for black, essentially for racial justice, social justice, police brutality stuff against black people and all this. So it's like, oh, okay. So it's okay to kill grandma as long as you're protesting that they killed this other guy.
Right.
Is that the logic here? I'm not saying I necessarily believe it, but that almost seems like the logic there is like, it's okay to kill grandma now because you're protesting, a more marginalized group.
Yeah. Systemic racism or whatever that is.
Right. So
yeah.
Which speaking of, I don't know if anyone saw this, but I went down to Iowa this on Thursday. So Thursday I went down to go meet up with friend Chris Joshua Smith. Joshua Smith is a candidate for the Libertarian National Committee chairman. He's basically running. It's pretty much him and the incumbent right now, which is Nick Sarwark. So they're doing this, and so I went to go. I didn't meet him just because of that, because he's friends with a lot of the friends I'm with. So I went down to meet up with these two guys. We hung out and stuff. So we were in downtown Des Moines. Now Des Moines is like the big city in Iowa, but it's Iowa. So
Denise Richards came from Iowa. She's pretty hot. There are some pretty hot chicks in Iowa.
Yeah, it's a really interesting city because they even like when they were talking about it. It was like almost like they were trying to. I was almost kind of convinced maybe I should move to Iowa.
Really?
Because Iowa is just like it's this interesting spot where you can pretty much fly anywhere in the country a lot quicker than anyone else. Because typically people are on the East Coast or West Coast, so it's longer if you're going across the country. But if you're in like a middle, Minnesota's kind of the same way. You can fly anywhere pretty quick.
Yeah.
But Iowa is still such a sparsely populated state, and there's so much, and it is on and especially Des Moines isn't basically on an interstate highway that's going across the country. Yeah. It's kind of a place where a lot of stuff can happen, and it could be a good place for someone to get a better job, or just it's a good place to kind of be where a lot is going through. Not necessarily stuff is happening there. Like that's a slower process, but can be a nice place to be. So I thought,
why not?
It's a little further south than Minnesota. Probably not as miserable for their winters.
Probably not.
But no. So we were hanging out. We got some food. We went to this. We went to actually this place called the Royal Mile. I think it's basically a pub.
Nice.
I had fish and chips.
Nice.
I forgot what Josh had. He had something that was like sausage, mashed potatoes, something else. I had a Guinness, of course. You saw that.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then we finished food, and then we went down. We just kind of were doing a little bar hopping. Went over to one bar. I did a shot of this like energy drink mixture thing, had that, and then we went somewhere else and had I forgot what we had there. We had green beers, and then we went somewhere else and had something else. Oh, so while we're having our drink, we thought there was going to be a curfew in Des Moines. Ended up not being a curfew. They actually lifted it before it was going to go into effect for another day.
Right.
So that's why I was actually going down there, because I was like, I'm not gonna, visit if
you can't go anywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Right, and risk risk being a
the Amazing Mentor's looking. I'm looking at the Facebook. We got a little 6 people watching on my watch party. Hey guys.
Awesome. But yeah, we were going to we're doing drinks, and then so we looked down the street and there's
a protest.
Yeah. So we're kind of watching, seeing where they're going. I think so Chris, who's from the area, kind of knew where they were going, so we were like, oh, let's go check it out. So we kind of went around, kind of cut through between different buildings, got into the middle of the crowd, and we're just watching. So they stopped at one spot, and interesting, it's kind of nice to see. Definitely different that they let traffic through. They weren't trying to like disrupt the entire city for the protest, so they let cars through and stuff. They're talking about different things, did some chants, and then they started marching down the street. So then we were like, okay, and then the 2 other guys were like, well, let's go. I'm like, all right. So there we go.
Joined the protest. Yeah,
we were just marching. I didn't. I was kind of listening to the different chants they were doing. Kind of looking around, making sure people weren't going to look at me funny, because like different chants were like doing different things, like little hand movements or whatever. And I was like, okay, am I going to look like
Nazi?
Yeah, and I'm just like kind of looking around. I'm like, well, I'm wearing this green shirt. I wore my ANCAP shirt. Well, it says voluntarism.
Voluntarism.
Yeah. I was meeting up with 2 other libertarians. I figured, hey, fits it. And some people saw the shirt and they probably were just like, oh, okay, Most people.
I'm sure they know what it is in Iowa, though. Iowa tends to be pretty libertarian.
Yeah, but they know. But I mean, but even for like, I'll just say for most people that are probably at the protest, they see like a yellow hand and a black hand. They're probably not thinking ANCAP. They're just like, oh, black hand. Like, and they say cooperation. They're like
unity.
Oh, they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. So yeah, we're there and we marched. We marched for like 4 miles. So I got exercise, and me, I'm doing the one meal a day stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
and drinking now,
and drinking and eating, and I'm just like, So it was actually good. I got a lot of, like I said, she got exercise because there was different grades of street were going on, and we actually made it all the way to all the like their state buildings, state house, their state legislators, and all this stuff, and we actually came up to the building, and just before we're like about 1 city block away. It's kind of weird, and I'll just come out and say how I felt. It was a little like kind of funny to be a part of this, but I'm staying there, and they're like, all right, everyone, hold on. Okay, all allies to the front.
Really?
Basically, all white people to the front.
Right.
Because if shit goes down, we're going to get shot first.
Right.
And I was just like, I mean, we were already kind of towards the front, so we just kind of looked around. And later on, I cracked the joke with the guys. I said, yeah, I mean, we're already at the front, and we're definitely like kind of keeping an eye on things. If anything went south, we're getting out of there. But I just, I talked to them later. I'm like, yeah, what is this? The Saltine Shield.
yeah. Human Shield from South Park. For them, it was the reverse. They put the black people in front of the tanks.
Saltine, cracker, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, cracked that with the guys. Thought it was funny, but I was like, that's a little interesting. But we went right by. Some of the protesters kind of giving the cops the finger, chewing them out and stuff. But no one approached them. No one did anything. The cops didn't look at us funny. Nothing broke out. And I was like, all right, we're good. Then we kept marching. We marched actually. By the time we started getting into like outside of the city and into a neighborhood, we're like, oh, everyone stopped. They turned around. They went to this park where they met up. By the time they were going there, we were like, all right. 3 of us were like, we're gonna.
It's done. Yeah.
We're gonna. So we called a Lyft, came up, picked us up, drove us back all the way back to the parking garage, and then we left. But so some of the guys took video and pictures that I was in, and some people started messaging me like, "You're at a protest? What are you doing at a protest?" And then, I said some different things like, well, we were having a drink and we decided to go for a walk, and apparently a lot of other people want to go for a walk too. We were like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I said, oh, come on. I said, I mean, really, what it is like, like I can understand. I can understand. Like, there's definitely a lot of like problematic aspects of BLM and a lot of the protests. And yes, there's the whole the riots and all this stuff. And a lot of people want to go and say, well, that's separate. Like, there's the peaceful and the violent part. It's like I
Right.
get that. But the reality is it's like when it all kind of just muddles together, like it's not like, just, oh, sucks for you because you got caught up in this, but there is like that's the public perception. That's what it's going to be. So being in that, you kind of get this feeling of being uncomfortable. But I kind of rationalize it to myself as well. As a libertarian, I totally agree with the idea that obviously government does abuse power.
Yeah.
Police do have a lot of things in place that allow them to get away with police brutality, and not just against against black people, but in general they just have a lot of abuse of power.
Yes.
Civil asset forfeiture. I mean, there's plenty. There's
Police
also
unions.
police unions. And it's not even just like the brutality part. There could be just abuse or harassment from police.
Yes.
That happens way more often than, not that it's any worse or any better or anything, but it's just to show that police in general, as an instrument of the state, easily abuse their power and get away with it more often than people would like to admit.
Agreed.
And a lot of that is being held in place because police essentially have the monopoly on violence. Like, legal violence is really only practiced by the police and the military.
Well, you do have it in America for self-defense, but yes, I understand the
But
point.
I mean,
you're
yeah,
making.
we can only do it to defend ourselves. But I mean, not to say like people should have the right to like, initiate force, but it's just they have they are the one institution that has the force that they're allowed to sort of get away with. So
Yeah, I think there's more. Well, I can't say if it's more abuse of violence in the police force because I don't have that data. But I understand the point in terms of the avenue of which the state is going to abuse its power is going to be the police and the military.
yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely I think you and I both agreed on that. And I liked your candidate's position on what she wanted to do with the police. Unlike what the Democrats seem to want to do with the police, which is defund the police. Like, what?
So
What the fuck?
So
Like,
I actually tried looking into that. So Minneapolis is talking about dismantling the police department.
right.
And-
This is in your state.
Yeah. So Minneapolis wants to do this, but they're saying they want to replace it with sort of a twofold system,
Yes.
two-part system. So one part is like a community, sort of like a community initiative sort of thing. So and this I think this is a lot better. It's like they want to basically tackle the nonviolent issues, drug use, just different things like that.
Parking tickets.
Things that can be resolved basically through a good talking to. I'll put it to that. Having counselors that are helping people getting better, getting on track with their life, creating plans that basically to attack the root of those types of problems. Now, with the sort of violent felonies, violent crimes and such, they were discussing, okay, are we going to have a police for this, or are we going to call it something else that is specifically for that?
Right.
So where there needs to be, they're really trying to be delicate with the nature of violence, but it's really is, unless it's something that actually requires violence, like absolutely needs violence to sort of deal with, it's going to be handled by this community one. But if it's absolutely needs violence, we're going to create a separate thing, which is basically police again. But they're going to try to make it where it's like specifically for the violence, because now the current thing is everything's handled by the police for the most part. Is drug charge, handcuffs, pin you to the ground, take you in, and it's like, well, okay, there's that, and then that's the same amount of violence that's being on that guy to arrest him, then it same as the guy who's shot someone, and it's like that's kind of one, it absolutely needs to be dealt with that way. The other one just kind of perpetuates the cycle of, well, get caught doing something, and you get taken away, and then you go back out and you do it all over again. Take another approach to basically essentially rebuilding these communities, bringing these communities to a level of like where that type of behavior, stealing on all these, just a lot of these things aren't quite as, what is it they call it? Pretty much victimless crimes is what I kind of got the idea.
Yeah.
Attack them from more the disease of the problem rather than the symptoms, because police tend to go after the symptoms, but then, which is why like violence definitely is a pretty bad symptom that you need violence to solve.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we were discussing it briefly. I can't remember if it was in the show or prior. Yeah, I think once upon a time, especially in the UK, for instance, the Bobby, we used to call them the police on the street, call him a Bobby, and he knew everybody. He was part of the community. He was involved in all of like the city councils and stuff like that. He knew the kids. He knew the families. He'd stop into houses from time to time, and people would, kind of share their grievances about whatever was going on. And he kind of had his pulse on the community. Now, as police power has been more centralized and it's been conglomerated, and I think in the US it's a state issue. It's a state. It's to the local municipalities and stuff like that. You've lost that, right? Police can be posted from all different parts of the country that have nothing in common with the community they're in. So there's no longer that sense of we're all in this together. Like this is a community.
Yeah.
And the flip side to that as well is the heavy militarization that's taken place with the police as well, where they think that the answer to everything is just extreme force. And we've discussed in previous podcasts, look, I have a lot of respect for the police, but at the same time, I understand that not everybody who goes into the police is necessarily mentally sound. And they're not exactly flower children of the 60s, right?
Right.
It's not a great idea to give these people bigger and bigger guns at the end of the day.
Right. So one thing that I think we had a conversation about this, and I remember I have to get the exact name again. So remember I brought up the whole thing with like tear gas and having it be allowed to use. So tear gas within the parameters of like of just the U.S. police as it is right now, totally allowed to be used.
Yes,
but there are conventions outside, international conventions in place that dictate that tear gas falls under like chemical agents. That are not allowed. Weapon. Not allowed to be used as a weapon of war.
Yeah, it's not either the Geneva Convention or one of them.
It's one of the other.
Forbids chemical weapons. Yeah.
That's where the argument came in, where there was people that were pointing out like tear gas is definitely one of those things. While it is technically allowed, it should not be. Now, in protest suppression, however you want to argue it, it's like it gets really tricky. Like there are more, like I've seen technologies that they're developing that make it just other non-lethal means that aren't necessarily like damaging or like because I'm trying to understand like how can you have something that suppresses a crowd, like justifiable use of force, like against a violent riot or something that doesn't involve like really like, because tear gas can have certain effects, or rubber bullets can actually become like blunt force trauma. There's talk of
have you seen the military demonstration that was put out I think it was a couple of months ago actually, where they're using ultrasound
for what?
For crowd dispersal. So that maybe it's not sound, but it's like this giant, what is it? It looks like a satellite dish, to be honest, but it hits you with sound waves. And apparently as you're coming towards it, you just get extremely hot. So if you,
there's a I think you're talking about the microwave device.
It's something like that. Yeah. It looks like that.
Yeah. So I've heard of the microwave device and I've seen it tested, and basically it's the way it's used is it's this sort of high energy pulse.
Yeah.
And if you're in its line of sight, you have no choice but to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And
your body will instinctively just kind of pull back from it.
Yeah, because I mean, I think they've like tried, like, people trying to stand in front of it. It's like, no, you get out of the way.
Yeah.
So there's that. But it's like, when it comes down to it, there's always going to be a case. And I want to touch on this other thing in connection to this is in protests or very loud, sort of rowdy groups of people that are protesting something, especially ones that are where the protesters are unarmed,
Yes.
and with the increasing militarization of the police as well. Part of de-escalating just is you have to basically go above the force that these people are sort of posing as a threat.
Yes.
So you, the police, who have the full access to rubber bullets, tasers, pepper spray, and tear gas.
Yeah.
You're basically your objective, just because, and obviously I'm not advocating that humans have to be seen as such, but it becomes a problem of just we have to solve the objective of subduing the crowd. We have to basically de-escalate by overwhelming what we feel is coming at us.
Yeah.
So we start knocking people down, hitting them with tasers. We start spraying their eyes. We shoot tear gas into them, and we just have to like completely disperse or just make them all just fall over in a non-lethal amount of pain.
Yeah.
To just stop. There's a couple of ways. Either the police have to just sit there and take it and risk a possible, someone does something and then it gets out of hand. Or the other way that I believe is all communities of all race, creed, gender, whatever, the whole 9 yards has to practice their Second Amendment rights.
That was the other point I was going to raise about. Yeah. I think I've heard even Tim Pool and a couple other centrist, more liberal types talk about the argument about the Second Amendment is over in a lot of senses, because even the most liberal people in the U.S. right now, witnessing especially the destruction and everything else, are fighting to get. I think like all the stores are empty. There's like no guns for sale in the United States.
Right.
So I think that is, which has always been my position. When I've seen places do conceal carry, people tend to get very polite because you never know who's carrying a gun when you could end your life.
Yeah, and the way so by understanding the de-escalation that police have to practice.
Yes.
If they are clearly seeing, so let's say there's 50 cops and there's 100 protesters.
Mm-hmm.
And they can make out that at least 50 protesters as well are armed.
Yes.
Visibly armed. De-escalation tells them you cannot de-escalate.
Yeah.
You have to basically maintain where you're at, and just either it has to cool down on its own or you do nothing. Because if you try to de-escalate, someone's going to die.
The chance of somebody
Both
getting
sides.
a gun and completely agree.
And that has a whole bunch of factors. Either, and I'm looking at this objectively. Paperwork, optics, loss of life, people getting fired, lawsuits, whole media, optics, which includes just media backlash, public backlash, just complete loss of confidence in the police, regardless of who shot first or who didn't shoot first. So
Correct.
All that to consider. It's kind of like, if you watch enough, so you and I watch a lot of sci-fi. You watch for example, Star Trek.
Yeah.
And there's a couple episodes in there.
Which Star Trek?
Next Generation.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. So you have all these cases. So there's in Star Trek: The Next Generation, Picard has a lot of these encounters with the Romulans. So he shows up, and they're at the neutral zone, and they're staring at each other. And there's a couple episodes where Picard practices this. He basically says, the Romulan captain is like, "Hey, if you fight us, you will die." And he goes, "So will you."
Yeah.
Shall we die together?
Yeah. Mutually assured destruction.
Yeah. And he's or even just So or even like where he'll have we've got 2 cloaked ships, and he's like, "We've got 2 cloaked Klingon ships on our side."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Do you really want to start a war?" And it's to point that out, to basically to show him the risk is far too great that you should carelessly want to threaten us. We understand that you understand that, and it is in both of our best interest to not plunge the entire, our entire quadrant of the galaxy into war.
Yes.
Now, on a smaller scale, we've had that with the U.S. and Russia, with the Cold War,
yeah.
and now
Cuban
I
Missile
think,
Crisis.
and now with the these problems with all these protests going on, I think it is on a small scale can be a very effective way of just maintaining that actually a lot fewer people are even going to remotely get hurt, because it's doing this until because what's going to happen is either the protesters just sit there and they're going to do their chants, they're going to do their whatever, and the police are going to be like, we're not going to shoot anything, because any like someone over there, someone over here has a trigger finger, someone over there has a trigger finger, some could go very wrong. And then the other factor is they're going to sit there long enough and be like, okay, call someone. We got to find a way. They're forced to be like, we got to find a way to end this peacefully.
Yeah.
So whether it's the mayor, the chief of police, or someone that comes out to basically talk about what needs to be done, then there's a civil dialogue. Then it actually can resolve and be like, is it always going to be perfect like that? No. But I mean, it pushes for that, because the explosion of violence is not worth it at that point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the way around the PR disaster is a more diversification away from the central power. So if it is that it goes back to the communities, and there's like a community police station and like a neighborhood sergeant who's directing the forces and stuff like that. If there is a cock up, the central authority doesn't have to take the blame. They're actually, they just say, well, right, it was the incompetence of, the divisional sergeant or whoever. The reason they don't like doing that is because they're all competing for funds, right?
Yeah, you got police unions, you've got the state involved. I mean, everyone's in everyone else's pockets. And
it's control. If they give up, I mean, when is the last time you've heard of a government agency actually giving up control or any kind of thing like that? It just doesn't happen.
And the unfortunate fact is, right now we're at a point where we are in Minneapolis, where it had to, I don't know exactly what percentage, but definitely a good amount of the city had to burn down before they were like, okay, I don't know, what is it? Not greed, sort of that desire to hold on to power.
Yeah,
was overcome by the desire for peace and just bringing it back to law and order. It's not the best way to go about it. I think, violence should be
limited in
yeah. It's definitely difficult. But real quick, actually, we're here at the 53-minute mark. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, real quick, everyone, our little housekeeping again. 10K Rum is the discount code you could use if you go to tacticalsoap.com. That gives you 10% off. Little commission goes to us. Subscribestar.com/shitlord-preachers. That's where you can basically give a monthly pledge to the show. Both those ways are ways you can support the show directly, or you can also subscribe to the show, subscribe to the podcast, like the video, comment below. And of course, there's always the ways you can follow us on the on Instagram. Well,
I've got an Instagram.
You've got Instagram.
I've got Twitter, an Instagram if you want to follow me.
Twitter, stuff like that. So, of course, yeah, I forgot we had to throw that in. You were like, hey, we gotta do that. So yeah, thank you everyone for supporting us. Of course, do check out those links if you are interested in supporting us monthly. And that's that. All right. So,
just a quick shout out to our Ivor the Boneless, obviously the son of Ragnar Lothbrok. He's in the chat. Yeah, I'm a fan. It's just saying. But yeah. I mean, getting back to the rise. I mean, there are a lot of creative policing solutions I think are there. I'm watching the situation in Minneapolis about defunding. It's not a good campaign because most people are not nuanced enough to understand that there are other policing strategies. So if the Democrats actually push that as a campaign, Trump just could relax, because like nobody in their right mind is thinking about just the optics of it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And a lot of what's irritating me about these protests, and I was saying this in the show, we have protests taking place right now in the UK. They're spray painting the likes of Trafalgar Square. They're defacing the statues of Abraham Lincoln and Churchill, and for a country that doesn't even have, the police don't even have guns in the UK. We have like a special armed unit that actually showed up in my neighborhood not that about yesterday. Over the, somebody thought it was some gunshots, and suddenly a fucking SWAT car shows up and like breaks into a house. But the UK does not have those same kind of issues in terms of, police brutality and stuff like that. In fact, we have the opposite problem where, our police have just been caught in a huge scandal concerning grooming young British girls with these grooming gangs and stuff like that. And it appears that the police was complicit because they didn't want to be called racist. We had a man butcher another fella to death on the road, caught on camera. I believe it was a black guy, and I believe the guy that he butchered was white. Caught on camera, and again, no kind of arrest or unrest or anything like that. But yet, a crime that's happened thousands of miles away in the US, which of course everybody agrees he should not have died under those circumstances. We have looting in the UK, in London. One of the most, quote unquote, progressive kind of cities on the planet. The police commissioner, the mayor is a Muslim. The police commissioner is a woman.
I mean,
you're going to riot in London?
Minnesota is one of the most progressive states.
Yeah, that's crazy as well. I don't know how that happened.
I
Should be.
I think it's really interesting that so just real quick, all the mudslinging that's going around, especially with between the politicians. So I'm seeing a lot of mudslinging from from Trump, from Biden, from Pelosi, and Mitch McConnell, and all the big names along in the political landscape right now. They're all slinging at each other. But the reality is while Pelosi wants to go blame Trump because of all the racism, or McConnell wants to go blame this for that, it's like they both, like, political parties are all doing different things that, like, here's what I basically kind of see is the Republicans become so pro, like, safe sort of law and order, safety, protection, that they kind of do that without really acknowledging a lot of the real issues regarding, like, okay, police brutality, reforming the police force, abuse of power by the police. Like, you see this thin blue line thing. And it just seems like, police are great because I know a good policeman. It's like, great. There's still a lot of police out there doing a whole bunch of whatever. Now, what I'm hearing right now, because of all the movements and all the people talking about it more, police are definitely like being more cautious. I think one of the big things they want to reform is where policemen have to have a mandatory report they have to do. So if they catch another policeman doing something, they are mandated to report it and intervene if necessary, if they see that another police officer is doing something wrong.
Right.
But that would also require body cams too.
Y'all don't have the body cams. Yeah, because we do.
We don't. They're going to do that too. So they have two of those things. So it's like if
you see something, it because
I know, but I mean, it's the first steps to, like, trying something, at least.
Yeah, it appears to help. Yeah, it looks like it's helping.
So basically, yeah, the right is so hard on, like, cops are heroes, therefore we're going to support the cops, even all this other stuff happening. So they're so into that they kind of go too far in the one way, and the left is more
cops.
It's like, get rid of all cops. It's like, well, you need something in the middle. So, like, both sides are kind of like going past each other, and it's like there's a middle ground. It was funny, actually. Someone brought this up. Tommy Lahren.
Yeah. The conservative host.
Yeah, so she put out a thing. She's like, they're talking about defunding the police. Fine, then we'll just come up with a new police force where you can actually opt out and defend yourself. So then, if you call the cops, you won't get help. And then a bunch of libertarians retweeted that, like, yeah, it's real funny when a conservative stumbles upon libertarian ideas.
Libertarianism.
And I kind of thought of that. I was like, yeah, I mean, because most people, most law-abiding citizens tend to do just fine with either having a security system, protecting themselves.
Yes.
And all the police really do is just to come over and fill out a police report as a formality, and that's that.
Yes.
Because either they defended themselves and and the that sends out a reputation that you don't fuck with that house. Yeah. Or the other thing is there's a security system, which also becomes, I can never get away with being there because the guy has cameras, he's got tripwire.
Tripwires? What's this, fucking Hunger Games? Like, is it that bad in Minnesota?
It just might be.
Katniss Aberdeen is now there? What the
fuck? Got a fucking moat around my house?
Like, what the hell, man? Dang, alligators and shit.
Landmines?
Dang, I didn't know it was that bad.
Motion sensor turrets at the front door?
Oh, man, them claymores, bro. Those claymores.
Yeah.
But no, I completely agree. I think, and I mean, that is generally the Republican stance, is to give people as much accountability and responsibility to protect themselves, which is why they generally pro Second Amendment. And I could tell you from the people in the UK, I think, where is this? Is it Peter White? Yeah, Peter White is in the chat. He's a fellow libertarian in the UK, not in the YouTube chat, on the Facebook Watch Party.
Oh.
And he's actually, we've had the discussions where we're actually jealous that a lot of people in the in the US can go and defend themselves, by buying a firearm. And, just very candidly, I had a couple conversations with people out here where I am in Essex. And again, Essex is very white and, this kind of thing. People, but this is it. Like, people actually come up, they've done nothing, absolutely nothing. They find out about what's going on because there's rioting in London and stuff like that. And they actually start to feel guilty for some reason. And they feel afraid. And I mean, we're not far. We're on the border with London. But I mean, London is fucking massive. It's like its own country. We really don't have any choice. Like, even for me, because I'm moving out to Wales, it looks like I might be going out to Aberdare at this point. This is my new hotspot. And I even looked into like a rifle range. I can't own a gun for self-defense, but I can get one for sport. And if somebody happens to come into the house while I have my rifle for the purposes of sport, and something goes off, there's a chance, as long as I didn't intend to hurt the person and it's in response to a certain threat and all these other fucking legal criterias, I can possibly use that for self-defense.
Oh, officer, I think I was sleep skeet shooting.
Yeah. I was pigeon. I thought he was a pigeon. It was clay pigeon shooting in my house.
Someone said
at
Paul,
3 a.m.
and I went, huh? And then
it just went off.
Yeah, I had my bat and my rifle right next to each other. I couldn't see it in the dark.
Yeah, you better have like a baseball collection if you have a bat. But I mean, this is the state that we're in the UK. The only place you can go is, I think, Northern Ireland. And that's because of the troubles with the whole Irish Republic and Northern Ireland issues. I think that's the only place you can actually own a firearm for self-defense. The rest of the UK, it's moot. You can't do anything out here. So yeah, that's some pretty scary stuff, man.
So when you come to the States,
when you guys find me a nice American girl, I mean,
you gotta.
I've been asking that. I've been asking that for like what, dude, almost.
That's such an excuse, though.
8 years.
I mean, the freedoms you get when you're here are more than well worth it for you.
Yeah, but the pound is better in terms of a currency. So once I make enough passive income in pounds, then I'll probably move to the US.
Dude, everything here is in pounds.
Yes, that's very clever. Very clever. Yeah, that's what's holding me back right now. I want to make all my money in the UK. Once that's all set up, I'm more than likely I'll probably go to Asia because I think America's pretty fucked right now. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's been some talk of a lot of moving to Asia. I've heard lately.
I think yeah, I
Um,
saw Richard Cooper's video on something similar.
yeah, there's been people in his group that are basically talking about it. There was a whole thread where it was just like, hey, why I'm thinking about leaving the states. And I'm like, ooh. Obviously not like to expatriate or anything like that, but it's just like leave.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't blame
Whether
them.
it's for a time, whether it's for a whole generation for some, maybe, I mean, the way it seems like something like this at its widest implication could extend out to just the generation. Like this is basically the us, millennials are we're kind of at the focus of this,
Yeah,
and whatever we do with this is going to, we're going to have to basically suffer both the consequences and the benefits of it for the rest of our lives. Whether, what is coronavirus, what is the post coronavirus world going to look like? What is the, what are the markets going to look like post 2020? Is
yeah.
it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? What kind of stuff's going to happen? What is this? Good point there, Tom. So Tom Bombadil are in our chat here basically saying they told us in church that we needed a great awakening, but everyone just got woke. Yeah.
Pretty
They got,
much. Pretty much.
they got missing a whole lot of that awakening part. And yeah, that's the.
I mean, do you still have Taiwanese citizenship? Could you get Taiwanese citizenship?
I never had citizenship.
But could you get it?
I wouldn't want to.
But I'm not, that's not what I asked. Could you get it though?
Yes.
Okay.
I would get something else.
What if you could get another citizenship? What would it be?
No. I could get residence.
Okay, but if you could get another citizenship, what would it be?
Probably Polish or something.
Polish. Okay, yeah. I mean, if I was hightailing it out of the UK, which I have considered, it would probably be Poland, Hungary, possibly Thailand. I'm just very concerned about China.
Yeah.
Right. That's so maybe South Korea, possibly Japan. But yeah, those are my options. I have dual citizenship, and I don't even want to go back to Trinidad. So
like Taiwan, actually, I could just go with what they call as an ARC. It's just an alien residency certification.
Right.
It's what I had for my whole life there, and it's technically expired at this moment. But because I have prior history, I'm pretty much. I mean, there's records of me there. I'm
sure.
They have the universal health care. I had all the benefits of a citizen except for the responsibility.
Sure.
Which is mandatory military service.
Right. Should have done it, man. That might have really done you good.
I mean, it would have done me good just as a person, but I think just at this point in my life, if I go back and do it, it'd be a whole different story.
Sure. I mean, they wouldn't put the same expectations on you now because you're older. Even I considered joining the service. I'm 39.
They would, I think. I don't know what the criteria and like what kind of stuff they put you through. So I have a friend, old friend from Taiwan who, so he's mixed like me, but he's half Chinese, half South African.
Nice.
His mom
South African white or South African
South
black?
African black. Well, like a brown.
Okay, cool. That's a good thing.
So him and his sister looked Indian.
Sure.
But they grew up in Taiwan, but then they went to school in the States.
Okay.
And then they moved back, and he's my age, and he's in the military service, and they're doing all sorts of stuff from he's doing where he has to do they just have them kind of, I don't know what the program is, but it seems like they just kind of have him do like a rigorous all around training. So right now he's doing stuff where he's working in a fire department.
Cool.
So you learn different stuff with that. But yeah, no, it's so like it might do me good, but I just at this point in my life, I mean, because a lot of people that I've heard that were like American born Taiwanese, what tends to happen is if you have citizenship or something, they'll just pick you up. I don't know if they're as they'll just like if they find out you're in the country and they think they see you're a citizen, buy for a year.
What? Oh, you mean put you into service? They put you
Yeah.
into okay.
Pick you up.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I was like, what does he mean by pick them up, man?
Yeah, no, I've guys basically that like came back to Taiwan as a visit, and then they just the military just came in and said you're ordered to come with us.
Wow, that's
You're serving
pretty
for
cool.
a year. Once it's done, it's done. But it's just kind of like one of those like, not quite as free as maybe some people would like it, but it's what they do.
I mean, to put a dovetail on that, the other option I would consider, but it's very difficult to get citizenship, would be Switzerland. And they have the same thing. They have mandatory.
Our friends over at
service.
the Asian Capitalist.
Jeff.
No, not Jeff. Bill.
Bill. Yeah.
Billy.
Billy.
Bill. No, Bill wanted to be his like ultimate goal in life was to be a citizen there.
It's very difficult. It's not only expensive as hell. Like I would need to make 3 times the amount of money that I'm making now to just like live average. But they don't give two shits. They like if you are not friendly to your neighbor, they will deny you citizenship. If you do not make efforts to learn French, they will deny you citizenship.
Wait, what? French?
Yeah, they speak French and German in Switzerland.
You have to learn at least French to be a citizen.
Yeah, you have to learn at least one of the native languages. In fact, there were a couple refugees that came across, and the boys and the girl, like it is mandatory. Every young boy and girl has to learn how to swim. And these young kids were of Muslim descent, so they couldn't share the pool with the opposite sex. Their parents were denied refugee status. Like you are not allowed to be in Switzerland with citizenship if you do not obey these rules. They don't give a shit about any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's because their premise is just neutrality.
Yeah, they're very heavy on equality and like we are Swiss.
But I mean, you get what I'm saying is like they're like because it's not like we hate these people or we don't like these people. We don't want to. It's just no. We have these rules if you want to be here, and it has nothing to do with you as a person or where you're from. It's just the rules if you want to be in this country.
Yeah,
because we're not taking it. Yeah, they don't really take a side on anything, but it's like but they still have their rules.
Yeah,
it's
they want you to be. If you're coming in, you got to be Swiss. They want you to be Swiss. If you're not interested in being Swiss, fuck off, basically.
Yeah, European culture I kind of look up to in a lot of different ways. Just different things that I kind of look at that are like just very interesting. I'd say like I don't know if you remember
European culture, but some of it is sure.
Some of it, yeah. One thing that really stuck with me. I don't know if you remember. So you remember the trip we went to Thailand?
Yes.
And there were people that were there that we knew that were European.
Yes.
I'll tell you off air later, but one of the people there was told me something about just the importance of punctuality.
Yes.
And they said in their culture, being punctual is a sign of like courtesy and manners. So if you're not punctual or if you're not following a schedule,
yeah,
that is an insult to being impolite. Like that's like, farting at the table, burping at the table, eating with your mouth open kind of thing. It's just very impolite. Probably more so. But that just kind of stuck with me. And there's been moments, I mean, I'm not sitting here like trying to be the most punctual person myself because unfortunately I'm an American at times. But,
not enough German in you.
Right, but there have been times where it's like where if it's something that I'm doing that I'm like relatively like good on time.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty consistently on time for something that I'm doing, and I find out there are other people that are not on time, I take offense.
Sure.
And if it happens enough time, I will be vocal. I will speak up about it. Especially if it's something that I'm maybe like passionate about. For example, I'll just say this in general, but like if it's D&D,
yeah,
one of the things is we started this time, we're all here, we're doing this. And if there's a sort of culture around it that's really interesting of punctuality. it's this
Yeah.
American invention, but it has this like culture around it of being punctual. Like you get this idea of these, nerds getting around playing a game with fantasy and all this, and you get this sort of impression.
Yeah.
But there's certain cultures in place about it, like you're on time, you're consistent with your schedule, you're doing these things. There's these things we do. So
Yeah.
if people aren't showing up consistent, there's a talk, and then there's whether it's
A decision is made.
a decision is made, either you got to fix this,
Yeah.
or we're going to change the time, or you're not coming.
Yeah.
So that was that's just something I remember. But
No, I mean there are some great aspects to European culture, which I definitely think I was not exposed to a lot of it. In fact, coming from the Caribbean, the idea of being on time is an insult, right? We have Trini time, and that's usually 2 hours after you're supposed to be there, kind of thing.
right.
But I mean, somebody taught me that. I heard this story anecdotally, or where, but no, yeah. So a kid walks into the classroom and he's like 5 minutes late, and they're like, I don't know, 20 students in the place and whatever, and the student's like, sorry, I'm like five minutes late, and the teacher spins around and basically says, no, you're not 5 minutes late because you've wasted the 5 minutes of every other student in this room. Right, you've actually wasted, what is 20 by 5 is 100 minutes, right? Because you've been late. You've disrespected everybody else here, because now I have to take this time, talk to you, catch you up, all this other kinds of stuff. And that was a story that always stuck with me. And in fact, I'm the reverse. I'm early. If I'm on time, I'm early. I'm like at least 10, 15 minutes before time.
One thing I learned it was football, but football in high school, the coach told us,
American football.
Yeah. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you forgot.
Yeah.
Told us that every time. So it was like, you get there on time. Well, no, you get there on time, which is early. Because they'll say, oh, practice starts at 5. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not you show up in the locker room at 5. It's you're on the field at 5.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, I think the Germans are very big on that. The French, not so much. The Italians, the Spanish, the Portuguese, not so much. North Scandinavia tends to be very big on that as well. The Brits are good with it, but they're getting lazy. They're getting worse. So yeah, it's definitely something. I think that's great. And I mean, when you're dealing with societies that are thousands of years old, like England and the UK, it's thousands of years. I think 1066 was the founding of like England and stuff like that. So that's a pretty long time. You have a lot of history and a lot of culture to draw on. I mean, they've forgotten it now, but they used to anyway.
Right. Actually, we got Brian in the chat here saying the Asian capitalists. I haven't heard from them lately. They've gone dark. They changed their channel name to Dormant Dynasty.
I haven't seen that actually. It's a good question, Brian. I mean, we are in touch with Jeff. Maybe shoot him a message sometime and see where he's at.
Yeah, 3 months ago. I think they're just so anyone who's seen like some of the videos we've done with them, the show we did with them. I know I did one, just me and Jeff, and we talked about and even then he feels that doesn't quite adequately explain like a lot of his changes in beliefs. It's just they're talking about a lot of different issues. Like they definitely have like libertarian beliefs, but they're definitely changing with that. And just, of course, just, the way Brooke and I are, and just the direction we take with the show is we're not going to try to limit like, who we talk to, what kind of topics we explore, because, I think it's always a good thing to explore different ideas, even if you might not entirely agree. I think they talked about, like, he's talking about it a lot of different, like, I mean, they're examining like really deep topics. It's fun. It's nice to listen to, but it's like, 30, 40 minute long videos discussing like the intricacies of like society. There's the cycles that civilizations go through, different ways, different groups, certain vocations or cliques or just social groups within a civilization are like interacting with each other. you know,
Correct.
how religion ties into it, or at least a religion like structure is woven into this. I think it's really good, but it's just it gets
It's
it
very
might
high-minded. It's
it's
very
very high minded, which I think is just kind of where it's a reflection of what they're exploring. Um, yeah, so it's, you know, while we're here, we're doing our show, and I think we try to keep it very light, very aloof in that way. But then when you get really high minded, like there's room for that. But
sure. Joe Rogan has shown that there's definitely room for high-minded. So
yeah. I mean, you know, one moment he's got his, you know, his comedian friends on, and they're talking about some really like edgy stuff. Just and
yeah,
it's all
sober October and
yeah,
shit.
it gets really like, you know, one episode's really dark, one is really just edgy dark humor, one's really like just messed up stuff they did as a kid, or just messed up thoughts they had, or whatever. And then another one is like, you know, they got like a couple of physicists on talking about the end of the universe or something. And then, you know, another guy comes on and it's all about DMT.
Yeah.
um
The guy works on UFOs and civilizations that are 20,000 years old. I mean,
yeah.
definitely.
But well, yeah, Brian. Yeah, Brian's making a point here. 35 minutes is not. Yeah, I mean, they're doing video. They're doing video content, and videos. I mean, anything beyond 10, 15 minutes is really pushing a lot of people's, you know, attention span. So, I mean, podcasts, we're going an hour and a half. Videos, 35 minutes to 40 minutes. That's getting really up there. So,
Yeah. I mean, we are guilty of doing the 10. I do the 10-minute clips just for the algorithm because like we are trying to boost the channel. So guys, if you're sick of us doing 10-minute clips, share the podcast so we can build the audience and don't have to rely upon the algorithm.
and also do support the podcast as well. I know we've got a handful of people. This is not sitting here just like what was it these Twitch thoughts that were like, you can spend $5 a month paying me because I do it. And no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I just say any support that anyone shows, whether it's subscriptions, following us, different things like that, you know, obviously if you pay us, it means a lot more. You know, you're obviously more important, but you know, we still love you all the same. You know, we do Religion Zero. We try to promote this, you know, love and grace, but you know, money changes that a little too. So,
well, glad you said it, Amos. So I didn't have to.
oh, so you did want to say it? Oh, are we just a bunch of greedy capitalists putting out content for money?
I mean, we've spent some money, but we'll discuss that another time.
Yeah. No, we support any support that we support any support. We are thankful for any support that people gives us to share the show, to, you know, get people to watch. I mean, we've been growing a little bit every now and then to our subscriber base. The hope is the goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year, at least. I think once you get there, like you kind of just grow
more organically. Yeah, I mean, I haven't put out a video in my channel in a while, and I think I'm still up 26 subscribers. Once I cross 2,000 on mine, it's like, okay, well, I might actually start taking it a little more seriously. But I'll probably start doing more long form interviews and live streams on my channel just to make some money, man. just to get that dollar, bro. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, maybe you need to like do like a remix of some videos, or like an afterthought of a video. Like what is it? Your most viewed video was something like
yeah, why I left Trinidad and Tobago, and I think the 5 foods I missed from Trinidad and Tobago. And
you can make another video why I'm not going back to Trinidad and Tobago.
I could. I mean, I don't. The
and
problem
what foods that I like in the UK that are better than the foods in Trinidad and Tobago, or something like that.
I did one on that, like the foods that I was surprised I liked in the UK. There's no science. Like you don't know why something is going to take off and something isn't.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. A remix, or like just redoing a certain video in a different way, like in a different angle, might take it somewhere, because it's common enough.
Yeah,
An idea like why I wouldn't go to Trinidad. Oh, okay. Why wouldn't you? Okay, why would he not want to go? It's like I I mean, the viral video that our friends over at the Asian Capitalists put out. What was the viral video for them? Advice for people in their 30s, I think it was.
Yeah, dating in their 30s or something like that.
Yeah. That's a broad enough topic that enough people are going to search those words, and that's going to get really high up on the results. So,
yeah, there's no science to it, which is why it's pissing me off, right? Because if we actually knew what the rules were, we can work to suit. But all we know is you got to put out content, at least 3 videos a week, no less than 10 minutes long. That's kind of all we know, and we're trying. Did you hear this thing about, I mean, just going quickly, the last point on the riots. The riots in Minneapolis have stopped, am I correct?
90% of it, pretty much, yeah.
90%.
I haven't heard any more news on it, really.
Okay.
There's probably still, like, gatherings.
Sure. But the rioting aspect, you haven't heard of anything more.
Yeah, I haven't heard any more of
that. And you would attribute that to the National Guard coming out?
Combination of a couple things, which is the National Guard plus, I think, because we're kind of the flashpoint. Like, a lot of people are, the information that is present for a lot of people, I think, helps because it points out, like, the understanding that there was, like, the rioting and the violence and such was incited. It didn't just happen it wasn't, like, used as an instrument of protest. While it is lumped into that, I think enough people saw that, like, the protest, like the protest that, the protest I went to, the march, was, I think I'm basically having the privilege of being part of a protest after Minneapolis.
Right.
That people are like, we got to make sure nothing happens here. Nothing breaks out. Like, we're going to get our message across. People are going to understand what we're getting at. We're not going to start anything, but we're also going to protect ourselves. Obviously, they didn't do anything with guns, at least as far as I saw. They were doing things like, I don't know if I said this, like, a guy had a leaf blower. Yeah. So if it's for tear gas canisters, if they come out, you can blow them and actually can redirect them away. Okay. Lots of people had jugs of water for both drinking and washing someone if they get pepper spray.
Or pepper spray.
Different things like that.
But there was no violence in the Iowa protests.
Yeah, we were towards the front, so we're seeing everything that's kind of coming at us. None of that happened. A lot of people cheering us on, stuff like that. But yeah.
All right. So did you hear about what's going on in Washington, D.C., where, Trump has called in the National Guard because of the riots and the effectiveness of the National Guard, and the mayor of D.C., I think it's Bowser is her name, she wants to kick him out. Like, they were set up and they were going to do all this kind of stuff and squash the riots and bring an end to it. And she basically said, no, we don't want you here. And she kicked them out of the state. I think they came from Utah or something. Huh. And more than that, she's directing the protesters to the White House. So you may have seen this image of Black Lives Matter written in the street in massive yellow letters. That, if you read that out, it ends at the White House. It's almost like she's trying to funnel the protesters in this particular direction. It's actually quite dangerous. It's actually quite dangerous what I think she's doing. I don't know if you've heard that or not.
Yeah, and everyone wondered, why would the president go into his bunker?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it almost looks like this woman is trying to get the president killed. That's what some people are speculating. Like, she's intentionally inciting it worse and worse to hope that something happens at the White House and it affects Trump.
Yeah,
that's the kind of craziness we're dealing with.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that is really.
I mean, we don't know. We'll never know the inner mind, but that makes sense.
It'd be some real TDS if that were true.
Why else kick the National Guard out? I mean, they're burning down your city. It doesn't add up.
I thought it was like, just when I thought it was like, it's not so much when I watch these videos, like, I'm getting a laugh because, like, oh, Trump won or whatever. It's the sheer ignorance of realities in this country that makes a lot of these reaction videos to Trump winning the presidency so much funnier to watch, especially the TYT one.
Yeah.
You watch them reacting to 97% chance Hillary Clinton's gonna win. Woo! And then it's just like, it just slowly devolves into what the fuck is going on? Like, I haven't watched one of those in a few months, but like every few months it pops up on my YouTube. I think YouTube has changed the algorithm, so I actually have to go find that. But
yeah.
I'll watch it and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what's coming. Like, it's funny because of just the triggering of it. And because it's this sort of denying of reality, it's kind of like, and it reminded me when I was watching these videos from like CNN of the reporters out there in Minneapolis. As you can see behind me, these are just very peaceful protests, buildings on fire.
Fucking burning down a building behind. This is mostly peaceful.
People, or there was like the caravan of cars driving by and they're like, fuck this. Obviously very rowdy group out here, very on fire for the protest,
and they're getting pelted with shit and other things, and it's like, it's fine. This is fine.
They probably don't know who we are. It's all fine. But it's just like, just being pelted. Or, I mean, some of them, like there was one where it was like a very clear reporter, and then like the cameraman points over to the cop, and he just shoots right at the cameraman. Did you see that one?
I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that one. That's.
I mean, it was like sandbag, rubber bullets or something, and then the cameraman, like you could see the camera's kind of like,
oh shit.
That was actually more pointing out like how police are indiscriminately shooting at random people, which is a point to be brought up. But yeah, the CNN that are like so blatantly just trying to like, this is peaceful. Yes, there were peaceful protests. I totally acknowledge that, but
it's not the same thing as the rioters. I think the whole country sees the difference.
But it's when you're like, if you wanted to paint the right narrative, at least be smart enough to pick a place where there's not a building on fire. Yeah. Like I think it's great they had the so they found the intersection near where Floyd was killed, and there's like this whole sort of prayer gathering they did. They like put chalk in the street, like drawing his face, different prayers, different things, flowers, memorial stuff. That's, I think, is a good thing. Like they want to do that. They want to do that to like, spread the message, sort of like a place of just peaceful, like, prayer and just community stuff they're doing there. Great.
Sure.
Go take your cameras there. Like, this is a peaceful thing that's going on. Like that at least would be, you're showing the right thing. There's a building on fire behind you.
The double think and the TDS and all this other. Actually, I have a friend of mine, Dale. He's watching it on Facebook. He works at one of these companies, these tech companies, and I mean, I he's showing me stuff that he's getting. I'm showing him stuff that I'm seeing and stuff like that. So I just wanted to say hi, bro. I appreciate you watching. But yeah, the derangement is absolutely insane. And what I think is absolutely detrimental and devastating, like Dale and I have a bet about who's going to win the US election. And whoever wins buys the other dinner up to like 30 euros. So not a huge bet. And I said straight up, it's going to be Trump. Of course it's going to be Trump. It's Trump.
He doesn't think so?
The Trump train is unstoppable at this point. He doesn't think so. He thinks, I don't know if he thinks Biden is going to win, but it's not going to be Trump.
So he's just betting against Trump.
I believe that is the case. I think he thinks Biden is going to be the case, but that is statistically unlikely.
Have you heard that Biden pretty much clinched the Democratic nomination?
Well, yeah, there's nobody else running at this point.
Well, there was all this talk like, the Democrats are going to try to sneak in another candidate to like bump him out because
they can't.
How unmarketable and just senile and losing it that he is.
Yeah. They can't. Because then there really is no democracy. If the whole process is circumvented at the 99th hour, it shows the sham of the system. If they could do that. So anyway, I mean, again, looking at everything that's going on, it all backfires on the Democrats in the US. All of the
Right.
states that are on fire tend to be Democratic mayors, Democratic governors. You know, I mean, that's why I asked about Iowa, because I don't think Iowa was controlled by the Democrats, but it wasn't a violent protest.
The one that I went to.
Right. I might be wrong. Somebody correct me in the chat if that's the case, but I don't think Des Moines is...
From what I heard,
Yeah.
it was very minimal, and it was directed mainly at the police.
Okay,
police
fair
department.
enough.
So, because here's where it came down to too. People were like, "Oh, you know, if you care so much about the violence," I said, "Here's the thing: if they went and if so, let's say riots broke out, but they went straight for the police department, like City Hall or something like that, and tried to damage that, or graffiti it, or God forbid, burn it down. Not that I condone just burn down shit, but at least it would be consistent.
Yeah. I agree.
You want to go burn down AutoZone? You want to go loot a Target?
They even stormed CNN, which was the most, which I think was ironic. I love that, but again, it's out of character, right?
I mean, if they somehow had a case to say like CNN spreading fake news and all this stuff and trying to paint a narrative over not just them but just a lot of other things, okay, you want to go make a case there, maybe, but CNN, in order of priorities, I think of targets would be like state buildings, police departments, stuff like that, CNN, and then Target, like in terms of what is most effective to get a message out there, because CNN will report on their building getting attacked.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. When that happened, this was in Atlanta, I believe.
Yeah,
that's the headquarters. Yeah, the mayor then, not before, then comes out and condemns the violence. Why? Because they need CNN. That's their speaker box to the world, right? And I hope, and this is why I think I'm going to win the bet with my friend Dale. I think everyday people see it for what it is.
Yeah.
I think the average American is not, and I made that point. If you want to know if a riot is revolutionary, like this is the transformation of a nation, you do not watch the kids, you watch the adults. If the adults are rioting, that's serious. That is something to be very concerned about. So far, we're not seeing that. We're seeing a bunch of kids.
So your friend is betting against Trump. So if Trump basically loses the election, right?
I believe that's his position. Yes.
So technically, if a libertarian won,
yeah, technically, I would owe him to. And I'll be honest, I lost complete respect for the VP candidate when he was making his statement about the riots. And he basically became a leftist meme where he was saying, well, nobody seemed to care about when the government came and looted your house for all the taxes and this. And he went off on all these other tangents. And at this, I was just like, just say that the riots, you don't condone the riots. You don't need to virtue signal and be the best libertarian ever. Yeah, I turned him off, unfollowed him. I was like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, it's definitely with the Libertarian Party, because their process is they choose the presidential candidate and the VP separately.
Sure. I know, and they vote him in.
Yeah. So they're trying the big thing right now is to see the balance between the two. Like, she's more of the thoughtful and impactful candidate on the presidential side. He's more the radical, sort of speaks his mind type, and not much of a filter when it comes to things like that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it is good in the long run, but sometimes there's just that little, stray shot that gets in there at times, which the party is slowly coming to realize is not something to fight about.
Right.
Because there was a division. So because right after he wins, he does a podcast.
Yeah, and he went shirtless, wasn't it?
Everyone freaked out, and it's like, oh, come on. And then people were showing Vladimir Putin. They were showing just all these other world leaders and presidents in the past that have been caught shirtless.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
It just shows that the Libertarian Party has not caught on to the game of politics yet. They're still idealistic. And that's, I think, is
surprisingly. It's interesting how that is, but
Trump got the game because he's the complete opposite of the politics, and that's why he's winning.
Right.
You guys are still playing safe, which it's very strange.
Yeah, some people have definitely voiced those concerns, but I haven't actually said anything about like.
I don't think you should. I don't think you should. No, kill that. you like your job.
Yeah,
we'll save that for a Subscribe Star special behind the curtains of the Joe Jurgensen. I mean, as you learn more and as you see the campaign develop, and you know, you can do like a whole behind the scenes what you learn sort of thing.
Right. Okay. But no, yeah, it's not a big deal. So we're at time. Damn it.
This one is getting spicy. I
like Tom Bombadil. Tactical soup rations. Tactical soap.
What do gay horses eat?
What do gay?
Hey.
Thanks, Tom Bombadil, for that joke.
Fuck you, Tom.
I think it's a better ending thing than what happened with the Religion Zero ending that we had. That was just like, you know, hey, here we're gonna end on a high note. Nope, just crash the whole thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
Tom,
anyway,
you're a boss.
Thank everyone for joining us. Of course, if you do would like to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications to all, leave a comment below, like the videos, follow both of us on Twitter. All the links are below for that. If you would like to support the show, which we highly recommend you do consider, subscribestar.com/shitlord-preachers for the monthly pledge if you want to do that. Or buy some tactical soap. Use the discount code 10KRUM. That's 10KRUM. Both of those. So check those out. And what else we got going on? Nothing else going on. We will see everyone next week.
Yeah.
Religion Zero, of course, will be on Brooks' channel next week.
It will be on my channel. Links in the description. Please, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Yes.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks for watching, everyone.